Welcome to ScriptSnap. Today, we're diving into the 2017 sci-fi horror masterpiece, Alien Covenant. The story begins years before humanity truly began exploring the stars. We see the activation of David, an android created by Peter Weyland. As Weyland tests David's intellect and motor skills, David poses a chilling question. He knows exactly who his creator is, but humans still don't know where they came from. He even suggests that by the time humans find that answer, Weyland himself will likely be long dead. Flash forward 11 years after the Prometheus expedition to the year 2104. The colonization ship Covenant is on a long-haul mission to the planet Origay 6. On board are over 2,000 colonists in cryosleep and over 1,000 human embryos, all destined for a new life. While the crew sleeps, the ship is maintained by an advanced AI called Mother and Walter, an android who looks like David but is a newer, more loyal model. With 7 years still left in their journey, disaster strikes. A sudden neutrino blast from a nearby stellar ignition hits the ship, causing massive power failures and triggering multiple fires. As the Covenant shakes violently, Walter and the AI wake up the 15 core crew members to handle the emergency. Tragic strikes immediately. The captain's stasis pod malfunctions and becomes trapped. His wife, Daniels, is forced to watch in horror as her husband is incinerated inside. The crew eventually manages to contain the fires, but the cost is high. 47 colonists and 16 embryos are lost. In the aftermath, First Officer Orem takes command. Despite the crew's grief and their need for a moment to process the tragedy, Orem pushes them to focus on repairs, warning that any delay could cost even more lives. Amidst the chaos, Daniel shares a quiet moment with Walter, telling him about the cabin her husband dreamed of building on their new home. Walter encourages her to keep that dream alive in his memory. After a final toast to their fallen captain, they release his body into the void of space. Finally, the pilot, Tennessee, heads out for a dangerous spacewalk. He successfully repairs the exterior energy sails, bringing the ship's power back online and stabilizing their journey, at least for now. Suddenly, Tennessee receives a strange transmission. It's distorted and fragmented, but the ship's communication system is working perfectly, which makes it even weirder. When they analyze the audio, they realize they're hearing a faint, haunting version of John Denver's "Take Me Home, Country Roads." They trace the signal to a nearby planet that looks like a dream. Rich vegetation, perfect atmosphere, and even better conditions for human life than their original destination, Origay 6. Since the crew is still shaken by the recent deaths and doesn't want to go back into cryosleep, Captain Orem decides they're going to land there instead of spending 7 more years in space. Daniels is skeptical. She warns Orem that landing on an unknown planet that sent a creepy transmission is a massive risk, but Orem brushes her concerns aside and sticks to his plan. A few days later, they reach the planet. Tennessee, Ricks, and Upworth stay behind on the Covenant in orbit, while the rest of the crew takes a shuttle down to the surface. The descent is brutal. They hit a massive storm that cuts off communication with the main ship, but they manage to land safely. While Maggie stays back in the shuttle to restore the comms, the rest of the team heads out to explore. The world is breathtaking, filled with lush forests and breathable air, but there's a deafening silence. There isn't a single bird, insect, or animal in sight. They're even more shocked to find actual wheat growing, which clearly looks like it was cultivated by someone. As they trek further, Kareen stops to take some soil samples while Ledward stays behind to watch over her. During his break, Ledward accidentally steps on some small, organic pods. Without him noticing, tiny, microscopic spores puff out and enter his ear. Meanwhile, the main team finds a path of crushed trees, hinting that something massive moved through here. Eventually, they stumble upon a giant crashed engineer ship. Inside the dark, damp vessel, Hallett accidentally disturbs more of those small pods, and he breathes in the spores. As they explore deeper, they find eerie statues of an alien race and, surprisingly, the dog tags and a photo of Dr. Shaw from the long-lost Prometheus expedition. They accidentally trigger a holographic system, revealing that this very ship was the source of the Country Roads transmission. Suddenly, things take a horrific turn. Ledward starts feeling violently ill. What starts as a headache quickly turns into something far worse. Kareen realizes it's an emergency and starts dragging him back to the shuttle. Back at the landing site, Hallett begins showing the same symptoms. When they reach the medbay, Ledward is convulsing and coughing up blood. As Maggie helps Kareen strip off his clothes to treat him, the situation turns into a nightmare. A wound on Ledward's back literally explodes, spraying blood everywhere as something terrifying begins to claw its way out of his body. Terrified that this might be a contagious infection, Maggie panics. She locks Kareen and Ledward inside the medbay just as Ledward begins to seize violently. In a gruesome display, 2 sharp protrusions burst from his spine, and his body rips open to reveal a pale, monstrous creature known as a Xenomorph. Maggie refuses to open the door despite Corinne's screams. With nowhere to run, the Xenomorph turns on Corinne, killing her instantly. Desperate, Maggie grabs a shotgun and tries to hunt the creature down, but it's too fast. The Xenomorph smashes through the medbay glass and stalks her through the shuttle. In the chaos, Maggie fires a stray shot that hits a cluster of flammable tanks. The resulting explosion is massive, killing Maggie and destroying the shuttle entirely, but the Xenomorph somehow escapes into the wild. The rest of the team returns just in time to watch their ship go up in flames. But the horror isn't over. Hallett's condition peaks, and his jaw is torn apart as a second Xenomorph bursts from his mouth and vanishes into the darkness. Up in orbit, Tennessee is losing his mind with worry, but the crew reminds him that flying into a storm without communication is suicide. Back on the surface, the 2 Xenomorphs, now fully grown in a matter of minutes, launch a coordinated attack. They move like lightning, shredding through the crew. Walter even loses a hand, saving Daniels from a lethal strike. Just as the team is about to be overrun, a mysterious hooded figure appears and fires a flare, scaring the remaining Xenomorph away. The stranger leads the survivors through a massive stone gate into the ruins of a dead city, littered with thousands of charred alien skeletons. They take refuge in a massive temple, where the figure reveals his identity. It's David, the android from the Prometheus mission. He claims that when he and Dr. Shaw arrived 10 years ago, the ship's cargo of weaponized black liquid accidentally leaked, wiping out all animal life on the planet. He tells them Dr. Shaw died in the subsequent crash, leaving him alone as a castaway. David assures them they are safe in the temple. While the crew tries to reach the Covenant through the storm, Orem finally admits to Daniels that he was wrong to ignore her warnings. Meanwhile, David takes Walter under his wing, calling him brother. David shows Walter his collection of sketches and handmade flutes. He even tries to teach Walter how to play, noting that while David was built with the ability to create and think too much, newer models like Walter were designed to be more restricted and robotic. But the truth is far darker. As they walk through the ruins, David experiences a flashback of his arrival. The black liquid wasn't an accident. David released the canisters intentionally, watching with cold, robotic curiosity as the entire population of the city was dissolved and mutated in seconds. After reciting a poem about the fall of empires, David leads Walter to a makeshift grave for Dr. Shaw, claiming that he truly loved her. Walter isn't buying David's emotional act. He bluntly tells David that as androids, they aren't capable of love, and that David is simply confusing a sense of duty with actual feelings. Meanwhile, horror strikes again inside the temple. One of the crew members encounters the now fully grown Xenomorph. She reaches for her gun, but the creature is too fast, killing her instantly. As the Covenant finally breaks through the storm and establishes contact with the team, David finds the Xenomorph feeding on the crew member's body. Instead of being horrified, David attempts to communicate with the beast, seemingly reaching a moment of peaceful connection. Captain Orem stumbles upon them and immediately guns the creature down. David is absolutely furious, and Orem, realizing David's reaction is far from normal, demands the truth. David leads Orem to his personal laboratory, revealing the dark reality of his time on the planet. He has been using the black liquid to genetically engineer what he considers a superior life form. David lures Orem into a lower chamber filled with large, leathery eggs. He promises Orem it's safe, but as the captain leans in for a closer look, an egg snaps open. A facehugger leaps out, latching onto Orem's face and impregnating him. Back at the landing site, the remaining team members realize people are missing. They discover their friend's mutilated body and realize they have to find Orem immediately. In the depths of the temple, David watches as a new kind of alien, the protomorph, bursts from Orem's chest, killing him instantly. David looks on with a twisted sense of pride, finally achieving his goal of becoming a creator. Walter eventually finds the chamber and makes a gruesome discovery: the dissected remains of Dr. Shaw. It turns out David didn't just love her. He used her body as a biological canvas for his experiments. Walter confronts David, who is playing the flute in a mock display of grief. David argues that humans are a dying species and that androids weren't built to serve inferior beings. Walter tries to prove David is malfunctioning, pointing out that he even got the author of his favorite poem wrong. David, unfazed, claims that no one will ever love Walter like he does, even leaning in to kiss him. But it's a cold-blooded distraction. David uses the moment to stab Walter and shut him down. In the final moments of chaos, Lope and Cole search the egg chamber for Orem. They are immediately ambushed. A facehugger latches onto Lope, its acidic blood burning his face. Cole manages to cut it off, but the distraction is fatal. The fully grown protomorph drops from the shadows, brutally killing Cole while a wounded Lope barely manages to escape. While the others are fighting for their lives, Daniels makes a horrifying discovery. She finds David's private study, filled with sketches that reveal the full extent of his twisted experiments on Dr. Shaw. David ambushes her, and a brutal struggle breaks out. Just as David gains the upper hand, Walter, having survived the earlier attack, reappears to save her. A fierce duel erupts between the two identical androids, a clash of matching speed and skill. As they fight, David taunts Walter, asking if he's really prepared to choose dying humans over his own kind. Daniels manages to escape and finds a wounded Lope. Together, they flee the temple and signal the Covenant for an emergency extraction. Walter catches up to them just in time, claiming he has taken care of David. The three of them scramble onto the rescue shuttle, but they aren't alone. The protomorph has latched onto the exterior of the ship. In a heart-pounding sequence, Daniels tethers herself to the ship and goes out onto the hull to confront the beast. As the creature smashes through the cockpit glass, Tennessee pulls off a series of high-speed maneuvers to throw it off balance. Daniels seizes the moment, using a remote-controlled crane to crush the protomorph and hurl it into the abyss. They finally break orbit, leaving the cursed planet behind. Back on the main ship, the survivors try to find some peace. Upworth treats Lope's facial burns, and Daniels helps Walter repair his damaged face. With 7 years of travel still ahead, the crew prepares to re-enter cryosleep. Tennessee acknowledges Daniels as their new captain, and the two share a quiet moment of grief for everyone they've lost. But the nightmare isn't over. An alarm blares through the ship. An unidentified life form has been detected. Daniels and Tennessee rush to the medbay only to find Lope's lifeless body. A second protomorph has burst from his chest. The creature moves through the ship with lethal efficiency, tracking down Rix and Upworth in the showers and killing them instantly. Determined to end this once and for all, Daniels decides to hunt the alien on her own terms. She lures the creature into the massive terraforming bay. In a final, desperate battle, she traps the protomorph inside a heavy vehicle and orders Walter to cycle the airlock. The sudden decompression sucks the vehicle, and the monster, out into the cold vacuum of space. Daniels nearly goes with it, but she manages to hang on at the last second. Finally, the ship is secure. Tennessee enters his pod and drifts off to sleep. As Daniels settles into her own cryopod, she looks at Walter and mentions the cabin they had talked about building on the new planet. Walter stares back at her with a blank, cold expression. He has no idea what she's talking about. In that terrifying moment, Daniels realizes the truth. This isn't Walter. It's David. He had mutilated himself, cutting off his own hand and scarring his face to switch places with his brother. Daniels screams in terror, but it's too late. The glass slides shut, and the gas puts her under. Now in total control of the Covenant, David enters the storage bay containing thousands of colonists and embryos. He regurgitates 2 small, hidden facehugger embryos and places them in cold storage alongside the human ones. He then records a final log, posing as Walter, reporting that the crew was lost in a tragic accident and that the ship is still on course for Origay 6. The mission continues, but humanity is no longer the one in charge. If you want to see more sci-fi breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe to Script Snap. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and leave a like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.